Hi everyone and welcome to my channel and to this short time-lapse version of a lemur in soft pastel. There will be a full-length version of this short demo over on my Patreon channel, but I hope that you enjoy this short version here. If you do, then please do hit subscribe here on YouTube and do check out all of my other playlists here for a huge variety of pastel videos. This little piece was done on pastel matte paper, and this is the sienna colour. It's only 7 inches by 7 inches, so it's pretty small. I fancied something furry this month for my mini demo over on Patreon, and I've got a load of wildlife references to work through, and this little lemur's face just stood out to me. It's from a bigger reference photo of the entire animal, but I decided on this little crop and to focus on the idea of painting black and white fur. Now there's always a difficulty when you're painting an animal that's black and white, that the two colours want to muddy each other, so it's very hard to keep your blacks dark and your whites clean. And of course, when you look closely at white or black fur, you end up seeing there's a lot more colour in there than you would first think. So in the black areas, I'm bringing in dark browns, dark purples, lots of rich dark colours. And then some highlight colours as well. Now these tend to be mid-tone colours, so one that has a lot of blue violet in it there, and one that's a bit more fleshy in tone. So you can always find lots of colour to liven up black fur. And then it's the same kind of business with white fur. In fact, sometimes even more so with white fur, because it really reflects all of the light, all of the colours surrounding it. In this photo reference, we've got directional lighting, which I always love to paint. So the main light source is somewhere over to the left of the lemur. That means that everything on this right side of the face will have more shadow tones. So even on areas where I know it's part of a white fuzzy ear, I'm making sure to come in, especially on the lower layers where you're really building up the colour from the base. I have to remind myself to go dark enough down here so that it really looks like it's in the shadows. So I'm avoiding bringing in what will be my brightest highlight colour anywhere in this section. And then of course up towards the top of the ear here, it's just catching a bit more light. So lots of use of my soft pastel sticks, and then coming in with some similar colours of pastel pencil and just making use of that very fine point, mostly to flick out the ends of the little hairs around the outer edges. So you can see there that I'm able to strengthen those pastel pencil marks by using the pigment that I've already put down. So you don't get a very strong pastel pencil mark, especially when adding it over the top of some very dark black pigment. And I like to use the soft pastel sticks as much as I can because the light colours there are really opaque and they will go over those dark colours to a certain extent. Of course, you can end up filling the tooth of the paper and running into trouble there. And sometimes you do find that there's a limit to how light you can go in a certain area, especially if you've kind of filled up the tooth of the paper. So the trick there is, if you want an area to look even brighter, then darken some other areas in the painting. It's all about the contrast, how colours compare to each other, what relationship is between the colours. So if you can't achieve something bright white enough, try to darken some of the surrounding colours, and that's instantly going to help your white area pop. But to be honest, there's very little pure white actually used in this little painting. I'm using lots of lighter tints. This is all done with my Unison pastels, and lots of these colours actually are in my animal set from Unison. And I quite often do still use a lot of those colours because they really are some of my favourite tones for capturing fur. So just working the central part of the face. I usually leave the eyes until a little bit later. I like to get the surrounding areas worked and to know that I've got the overall shapes of everything. Because even though I do sketch my outline at the beginning, I normally do that on a separate piece of white drawing paper, and then I transfer or trace that image onto my pastel paper. That allows me to rub out a little bit more, make mistakes in the drawing stages. So usually by the time I transfer my line drawing onto the pastel paper, I've got the proportions pretty close. But this is something that is always in my mind as I'm working on it. I'm trying not to get carried away with the tiny details until I'm sure that I've got the proportions and the scale of things. So many lovely little shapes on this face to keep you right as you're composing the overall structure of it. And I'm using those different sections on the face to really make sure that I've got the structure of the animal right. Now, of course, one thing that really attracted me to this image was those big glassy eyes. I really loved the pose. I got many reference photos on this same day. And it was difficult to choose which one of them to paint actually, but this one really won me over because of the expression, and I really liked the addition of his little hand at the bottom as well, just resting on his own wrist. So the eyes were really fun to work on. I didn't spend a huge amount of time on them. If you were working along with me on this demo, you could definitely pause at certain points and go a little further with the detail if you wish. Sometimes when I'm making a demo, I do get to a finished point and I try to show absolutely everything that I would choose to do within the painting process. But I know that sometimes some of my patrons go off and do some of my tutorials and go that extra mile on the detail. I love seeing all their different versions of the tutorials popping up. It's really fun to see, even when we all paint the same image, they all turn out so different. Each one definitely has the touch of the individual who painted it. And that's what I really love to see when people tackle my tutorials, because it's all about finding your own voice as an artist. All I'm doing really is showing you how I do it. That's not necessarily the right way. It's not the only way. But I know in my own progression as an artist, I have cherry-picked little ideas from many different artists over the years. And by the time you melt all of that together, and then you've just got the unique quality to your own mark-making style, you can't help but end up finding your own painting style, really. This was something that I worried about at the beginning of becoming a professional artist, feeling like I didn't really have a style or a set way of working. And this is definitely something that comes with time. And that's the beauty of studying art and looking at everyone else's artwork and how they do things. You can still choose to go off and do it in your own way. A lot of it is instinctual. For example, many of us artists start a painting in a completely different way. Some people start with the eyes first. Other people work only from the very top of the painting downwards. There are so many different ways you can approach this, so there's really no right or wrong. It's just finding the order to do things in and the way to think about it that makes sense to you. So this is a really fun, shorter project. At around 4.5 hours, this actually took a little longer than I thought it would. And I think that's mostly because of the arm and the hand. If it had have been just a little head portrait, it would have been a good bit quicker. But I really liked the detail at the bottom of the painting, just including a little hint of the rock. And creating a sense of weight of the animal, that it's resting on something. And if you want to give something convincing weight within your painting, a lot of that comes from how you paint the shadows. So making sure that there are nice dark shadows in underneath the fingers. We've got that really, really dark shadow running along the bottom of the painting underneath his arm. So as always, light and shade plays such a huge part in my paintings and in my painting process. It's the main thing that I'm basing my decisions on. I'm analysing how the light is affecting each section of the animal. But I hope that you have enjoyed seeing a little bit of my process here and hearing some of my thoughts as I painted this. Full-length version will be over on Patreon. I hope that you'll come and check it out, along with my full library of real-time tutorials. But if you enjoyed this here, then please do remember to hit subscribe and the little bell notification so that you hear when I release a new video. But thanks very much for watching this here, and until next time, happy pasteling.